And a very warm welcome to our YouTube channel here at the New Mummy Company. My name is Maria, and today is a very special day because we have Nicole from Bliss Consulting to join us and chat to us about a topic that comes up rather a lot, and that is sex after baby. So it is a really great opportunity to have a really in-depth conversation with Nicole because of her specialty and her background. So, Nicole, thank you so much for joining us. And I would love for you to introduce yourself and give everyone who's watching today a little bit of background on you because of your specialty in this subject.
For sure. Thank you so much, Maria, for having us, or me, I suppose. Very excited to be here and be having some of these conversations. I think they're just such important conversations. And so I love that we've been able to kind of collaborate on this. So, yes, my name is Nicole. I'm the owner of Bliss Counselling and Psychotherapy. I'm the owner of our Milton location, and we do also have a location in Kitchener-Waterloo, which has been around for about 10 years. So our Milton location is newer, and we're really trying to build relationships with folks in our community who we can, collaborate with, who we're sort of supporting the same sorts of clients, and we can bring in this sense of, collaborative care for those folks. So at Bliss, we all, and myself included, have some sex therapy training. We are a sex positive practice. And so that means that we will talk about sex. And, we're not going to shy away from it. We're not afraid to have these conversations. We actually really encourage these conversations. And so we are a safe place, right, to come and explore some of these things, right? So for me, I do have some trauma training as well. And so that's a real passion of mine is just working with folks who have a trauma history. And a lot of times that overlaps with folks who are pregnant or expecting. And, they're nervous about what that process is going to be like, labor and delivery. And so we can work through some of those past trauma experiences and hopefully help them to have a positive laboring and birthing experience. So our practice is pretty broad. We have folks with all kinds of different modalities. But of course, underlying all of that is our interest and passion in working with sex.
So, this is a really great opportunity for us now to have this conversation, which is so well needed. There are so many people that have these questions. And in almost the 25 years that I've been working in this industry, it is a question that comes up time and time again. Everyone's recovery period after they've had their baby is different. For some people, it's a matter of days, some people a matter of weeks, others a matter of months. But the big question that comes up time and time again, regardless of whether it's a C-section or a vaginal delivery, is when can I resume bedroom activities? When can I have sex again? And obviously, that's a very big question, but I feel like you're the perfect person to ask that question to.
For sure. Thank you. Absolutely agree. Super common question. People are always wondering this. So first off, I'll say that there's a difference, of course, in terms of what we're talking about in terms of bedroom activities or sexual experiences. So if those sexual experiences or interests or activities, behaviors are beyond penetrative intercourse, generally then you can engage in that at any point in time whenever you feel ready. If we are talking about penetrative sex, the guideline there is to wait until the area has had some time to heal. Most healthcare providers will tell you 4 to 6 weeks. That's kind of the gold standard that they will often offer at your 6 week, postpartum checkup. Then they'll say, okay, you're probably good to go. The reason for this is again to kind of give the body some time to heal. Whether
Mhm.
it's a vaginal or C-section delivery, your body has had to do a lot of changing internally. And now it's going kind of back and it's having to heal. If there's any, been any tears or anything like that, has to heal. So we really want to give the area some time to heal. That being said, that 4 to 6 week guideline, for some people, that's way too long. For some people, that's way too short. So, really, the case here is check in with your healthcare provider, find out from them if there's any sort of complications or anything that they're having to pay attention to or track with you. But then ultimately, beyond that is trusting your own awareness of your own body. Just because your OB or your doctor has said at your 6 week checkup, yep, you're good to go, doesn't mean that you have to, right? And every body is different. And from a medical standpoint, they might be saying, yep, you're fine. From an emotional standpoint, maybe you're not comfortable yet, right? So only do this if you are feeling ready to do so. And stop. If you start and there is any sort of pain or discomfort, stop, right? It just means your body's not ready yet. That's okay. It will be at some point. Just slow that process down a little bit. Give yourself the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with everything you've said that for some people, a couple of weeks feels like an eternity, and then for other people, a couple of weeks feels like a blip. So it definitely is a very individual thing. Now, when it comes to wound recovery, so whether that be stitches or a C-section, and I think in particular a C-section, if we think of traditional sexual positions, there is going to be contact. So is it different if there's a C-section that we need? Is there things that we need to really consider there?
Yeah. So yes and no. You're gonna find this is my answer for a lot of things. It depends. So for a C-section, in theory, the recommendation is the same. So typically the same guideline is given at that 6 week checkup. They'll usually check in. In terms of C-sections, though, you do have to remember that's a major surgery. They have had to cut through multiple layers of
Absolutely.
skin and tissue. And so at 6 weeks, there might still be some tenderness around that incision site. And so you are going to want to be really mindful in terms of speed and, as you said, positioning. Again, as I mentioned, stop. Like if anything feels uncomfortable, if there's tension, if it hurts at all, stop, right? And try changing positions. Maybe there's a different position that might work better. Maybe there's a different way that you can do that or a different speed, or maybe again, like you did in pregnancy, there might be some props that might be helpful. So you can kind of again still like experiment with that a little bit. But ultimately, too, to remember is that it is an incision. So it was a cut and it is healing. And so it can be more prone to tearing. So it is also important to keep in mind you want to engage in sexual activities that aren't strenuous. And as the woman or mom has been given the guideline previously of not to lift anything that's heavier than the baby, we would sort of carry that into sexual activity as well. So just being mindful that you're not holding too much or holding yourself up or, anything that kind of might come across as sort of strenuous, just being mindful of the possibility of tearing there, right? So again, just kind of checking in with that healthcare provider. Sometimes with C-sections, they are tracking certain things. There are different types of complications that can come up with that. If that person's, healing a little bit more slowly, right, they may actually say you have to wait a little bit longer. So yes, different, but also same.
Okay. And so, next question might seem like a bit of a strange question to ask at this point because we've just had a baby. And it's probably the last thing on your mind is having another baby. But obviously, as professionals, we know that now that your body is aware of what to do and how to get pregnant, the next question is, can I get pregnant? Is there a period of time that's safe that I can't get pregnant? Or should we be prepared for the fact that I could get pregnant right now if I'm 4 weeks postpartum or 6 weeks postpartum? Like, is there any grace period that we're given?
Not really. Again, different bodies, different experiences. And so, no, there's not really a safe period of time per se. For a lot of folks, the really early stages, yes, it is not really possible to get pregnant, but that's also in the time frame that you're probably not having sex anyways. So really and truly, you can get pregnant at any point in time. Following a pregnancy, following a delivery. So be aware of that.
And the other myth that's out there is that you're not going to get pregnant if you're breastfeeding. Is that really a myth or is that true? What do people need to know about breastfeeding?
Yeah, so that really is a myth. It does hold true for some folks where with the breastfeeding, their system doesn't ovulate and so they won't get pregnant. That is not everybody, that is not across the board. And I can tell you lots of people in the world have babies right now or adult children because they thought they were breastfeeding and so therefore couldn't get pregnant. Not true, right? So, if you're having any kind of sexual intercourse following delivery at whatever time frame that is, do keep in mind if you don't want to get pregnant again, to be using some form of contraception at that point. Yeah.
Unless you want a pair of Irish twins.
Well, I was gonna say that. I was like, oh, here we go. This is a perfect segue into Irish twins, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So I guess that's good news. And excuse me, I think my experience over the years is that many of the families that I worked with struggled for a very long time to get pregnant and went through all sorts of treatment, IVF, etc. And we've even had some families where they have gone to the real extremes of needing to go to surrogacy to be able to have a baby. And whether they then relaxed and realized that, it's okay, I can relax my body, they then get pregnant themselves. But I think most of the time, our experience has been that someone has had all of these medical interventions to get pregnant and so assume that they're not going to get pregnant after they've had their baby, that they're going to need the same assistance the second time round. And lo and behold, there's the Irish twins again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. That's actually a really good point as well, right? Is that pre-use of or, necessity for any sort of fertility treatment. Just again, every pregnancy is different. You may not need that the next time. You might, yes, absolutely, but you also may not. So don't kind of assume, right, that certain things are true just because they have been in the past.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, for those women who, in their postpartum period, are thinking, I want that intimacy, I want that connection, I want that time to, spend with my partner, because a lot of people will say how they miss their partner. And so how do we maintain intimacy if we don't feel ready to have actual intercourse at this point? Because there are so many things going on with either breastfeeding or healing.
Yeah, absolutely. So intimacy, I think sometimes it becomes interchangeable with sexual intercourse, and intimacy is so much broader than that. Intimate, like sex and sexual experiences are one part of intimacy as an umbrella. So intimacy brings in, spending quality time together, being close with one another, having deep conversations with each other, having alone time together, going for a walk and holding hands, cuddling on the couch, giving each other a massage. Like these are all things that build intimacy. And so, yeah, if we take sex off the table for a period of time, that's okay. And there's a lot of other ways that we can maintain that intimacy. I again typically will sort of say to folks, like, if you don't have all the other things and you only have sex, you're missing intimacy too, right? So let's be really mindful that we're kind of having everything that's sort of under that umbrella. When you have a new baby, that is so hard to do, right? It's way easier said than done. I know this, right? I have two littles. I understand, and so it can be a case of getting creative, right? Do you have the ability to put your baby in a carrier? Can you go for a walk together, the two of you? Can you hold hands on your walk and have a nice conversation? Can you go for a tea date and have some tea together? When baby's sleeping? sleeping, can you have a little cuddle session, watch a little TV show, something like that. So just kind of thinking about all the ways that you experience physical touch with your partner that is not sexual, all the ways in which you show affection to each other, but also what's your quality time look like? Babies take up a lot of time, a lot of time. Brand new
They do.
babies, they sleep a lot, but they're also awake a lot, right? And so this whole idea of sleep when baby sleeps, I mean, that's lovely, but most people never do that. So use that as an opportunity to connect with your partner. Even if it's just sitting together quietly, scrolling on your phones, but together, right? And touching each other and just sort of having that ability to be close and have that intimacy.
Yeah. Another suggestion that I would like to put in there is having a shower together.
Yes. Absolutely.
It can sort of help with that reconnecting. And again, it can be quite a nice way to relax because obviously the water will have that impact. And it's a way to be intimate with each other, and it can sort of start the beginnings of that opportunity to start exploring your bodies again, particularly when things have changed. Your body has changed so substantially after you've had your baby, and it's a nice starter. We often, where there are issues with breastfeeding, will recommend getting into the bath with baby so that you can relax in the bath with baby. So water is a great way to help us to relax. So that's just something to keep in mind, or have a bath together is another way too. The shower might be a little bit quicker simply because there isn't a lot of time, as we've talked about, because obviously babies tend to feed rather quickly, or rather frequently in the early stages. So that's probably not going to be a lot of time. By the time you fill the bath, baby will be awake and ready to feed.
Yeah. You have to find things that are quick, efficient, but impactful.
Exactly, exactly. Um, when when we have had a baby, obviously, there's so much that goes on. But how do we maintain the communication with our partner? How do we how do we maintain that relationship? Because obviously there's a lot of strain that's put on a relationship after a baby is born. So how do we make sure that we maintain that closeness and that intimacy?
Yeah, you really want to make sure that you are prioritizing the relationship as well. And I know, again, that's easier said than done, is just finding those ways to connect with each other. I know that so there's been studies that have been done about parents and the communication style between parents, where they've like listened in on folks like in their home and sort of analyzed the type of communication. And communication tends to shift to task focused, right? Are you
Okay.
doing this? Who's doing that? When do we have to do that, right? Like there's this very much like uh, discussion around the routine or the tasks that need to get complete. And that sort of naturally happens. You have to start thinking about now a third person or a fourth or a fifth or a sixth person. And so the conversation shifts, right? So what we want to do, and we typically sort of recommend for folks, is to think about, are there small ways that you and your partner can just have a conversation that isn't about your children, or isn't about tasks, like just a genuine sit down, check in. How are you doing? How are you feeling? How are things for you? And actually just connecting with each other in that way, and making sure that your relationship is also staying as a priority as well as your parenting relationship, right? Um, Folks who have really good communication in that way, they tend to find that they are happier in terms of being able to feel connected to their partner, and have that open, sort of transparent sort of relationship. And they feel more supported because they feel like their partner hears them, their partner can maybe anticipate some needs or help them out with something that they're needing that way. So that can be really, really important to do. again, hard to do sometimes. But, if it's possible, if you have someone who can even just care for your babe while they're sleeping for half an hour, that's enough time just to connect, right? And just have a conversation in that way.
Yeah. Finding little moments together.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
treasuring those little moments. There will get to be more, right? As time goes on, you will get more of those. Um, so treasure them when you have them for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And this stage of new parenthood is a stage. It is a phase. It doesn't last forever. It feels like it's never ending when you're going through it, but you will look back on it and think how it went by so fast. So it is just a stage. It is a phase. And very much the communication aspect of things is what needs to be prioritized and focused on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Excellent. So those are the end of my questions today, Nicole. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that we should maybe
Um,
mention?
yeah, I think the last thing I would just say is kind of linking back to the question before around what if we're not having sex? What sort of things can we do for intimacy? I think one of the things that I hear a lot is questions around wanting to have some of that intimacy, but not wanting that to go any farther than, what they're sort of comfortable with. And so, again, you're probably going to roll your eyes at me, but it's like a communication is also the answer here, right? Of what's your boundary, right? So, if we're going to have a little makeout session, let your partner know that that's all that it is, right? And I don't, this isn't my foreplay into something else. This isn't my initiation of something else. This is just my opportunity to connect with you and have some affection and share that intimacy with you, but I'm not yet ready for that to go any further. That type of communication is really important. It really decreases frustration and those feelings of rejection. I think, again, that postpartum period, the hormone changes that are happening for both parents, right? I think that's something I want to talk about in a future video is just that both partners do experience some change, right? And so emotions can be high. We're maybe not getting a lot of sleep, and so we're tired, and so we might be more irritable or take things personally. So that transparent communication can really help to decrease assumptions or those feelings of rejection if you're not able to, right, or willing to, or ready to go any further with that, just let your partner know that. So then they're not feeling like, oh, hey, this is something, we're going to have some sexy time. And then you're like, oh, no, that's it. Like, let's stop there. And then they're going, what happened, right? So just communicating that with your partner, just create that. That's an intimacy creator, right? It's just being able to build that bond and that connection. But that the postpartum phase, like it just brings with it so many changes, physical changes, emotional changes. A lot of these things influence the context of wanting or not wanting to have sex with your partner. So we're going to talk a lot more in a future video about the emotional side of things, but just kind of keeping in mind that it really is important to only proceed with these things if and when you're ready and to communicate with your partner when that is and what the expectations are. So everyone is clear and kind of knows what's happening. And then that's going to set you up for success, right? So, yeah.
Nobody wants to feel rejected.
No, it's not a nice feeling, right? And it's not personal to you probably in this situation, right? So,
No,
better
no.
to let your partner know that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Communication really is key to all aspects of a relationship.
For sure. It is.
Thank you so much, Nicole. It was absolutely a pleasure to chat to you. And thank you so much for all the helpful information. I hope you found today's video helpful. If you did, you know what to do. You can hit that like button, you can hit the subscribe button, and we will also post information below about Nicole's clinic, which is based here locally to us in Milton, Ontario. And if you have any questions that you would like to ask Nicole, then you'll be able to reach out directly to her. So for now, it is goodbye from us, but we will be back with another video in the near future. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks.